Ben, pleased to meet.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, Sarah. Thanks so much for having us here at Iford Estate this morning. What's the National Park Authority's role in these nature markets and associated investment?
Well, it's a really exciting time at the moment to be part of a national park and at the forefront of green finance in the UK. National parks cover about 10% of England. So they're really in a great spot, and the South Downs is in a great spot in order to deliver nature recovery at scale. Our focus is ensuring thriving rural economies, nature recovery and viable farming methods with our landowners such as Iford Estate, and really our history of partnerships with our landowners enable us to pick out the best spots for biodiversity and deliver them for long-term investment.
So Ben, tell us about your part in the National Park.
The whole estate is within the national park, and we're Lewis, which we're next door to, is one of the gateway towns. So we're bang smack in the middle of the national park, and that partnership that we have with the national park is really important, because I think, as well as enabling us through the legal agreements and the work that the national park have been doing to bring this whole biodiversity thing to the fore, actually just having the national park's seal of approval, if you like, that authenticity that the national park gives us, really helps draw investors in.
So Sarah, tell us about the Natural Environment Investment Readiness Fund grant that is supporting you here in the South Downs.
Well, my colleagues came up with this incredible idea on the back of mandated biodiversity net gain at the early part of 2024. But they just didn't have the resources, didn't have the time, didn't have the funding to really do anything with it. So this NEIRF funding was really able to take this concept, turn it into reality. And as part of that, we've been able to secure a high integrity delivery partner in Earthly. We've been able to change land use with Iford Estate and incorporate voluntary biodiversity credits into that. They've been able to hire me, which has been great. I sort of project managed the whole thing, and we've been able to put together sales and marketing strategies in order to take it to market and test it in the marketplace.
So the Iford Estate's about 1,200 hectares. It's a farming estate, principally, and we've been farming here since 1895. The Robinsons having looked after it till recently, and then I've taken over as managing director. And as I say, it's a farming estate. It's principally arable, but the Robinsons particularly have been really conservation-minded right the way through their period of ownership. We've got this really nice reservoir of biodiversity and species on the farm. We know we have because we've done a lot of survey work. And then more recently, having been in all sorts of stewardship schemes over the years, we've come across biodiversity net gain as a mechanism to deliver the goals that we want to deliver for biodiversity.
So Ben, tell us why now is a good time for an estate like this to be selling voluntary biodiversity credits.
Well, it's a good question. We found that over the last few years, with the changing climate and the difficulties of being an arable farmer in the southeast of England, that we needed to think about securing the business for the future. And biodiversity net gain, which we started doing 3 or 4 years ago, has actually proved to be quite a good way of securing long-term revenue streams and making sure that we can continue looking after the estate in the way we have done for the last 125 years. And following on from that sort of statutory biodiversity piece, the whole voluntary market has developed, and we've now got a Section 106 agreement on a block of woodland, which we're going to look at in a minute, which allows us to sell voluntary biodiversity credits to people that want to contribute to nature recovery.
Fantastic. Let's go and see some more.
Yeah.
Right.
We're on Houndine Farm, which is about 140 hectares of principally arable land. And as part of our whole habitat design process, we've thought really carefully about how our proposals fit into the landscape. I'm really conscious that this is a 30-year commitment, but actually in reality it's in perpetuity. So I really want to make sure that the woodland, for example, ends up in a place that looks right and that feels right in the landscape. So we've used landscape architects to help us design what we're doing. And it's picked up old maps, old photos, aerial photos from the interwar periods, and looked at what fits in the landscape, what was in the landscape, and how we can then sort of try and bring it back a bit. And so what we're in now is a field of wheat. It's part of what was a much bigger field. And to our left over there, we've put grass and scrub in. Behind us over here, we've got a bit of new woodland planting. And once we've actually managed to sell the units, or nearly sell the units off those two chunks, this bit we're standing on will then come into the habitats, and we'll extend it down the valley. Biodiversity net gain doesn't allow you to add carbon on top. There are some things that you can stack, to use the jargon, on top of it. And I'm thinking about how we can integrate some sort of tourism business, wildlife tours, bringing the general public on.
Yes.
And that's a whole sort of eco-tourism market, but we're not there yet.
What difference is there between the provision of mandatory credits and voluntary credits?
In essence, there's no difference at all. The management's the same, the legal agreements are pretty much the same. And actually on this piece that we're walking through now, I'm selling some of it for mandatory net gain and some of it for voluntary. But what we've done with the voluntary is to split the site up into 3-word squares. So they're 3 by 3 metre unique squares with a 3-word reference. And the voluntary investors will be buying a nominated 3-word square that they can then go and navigate their way to. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right. Ollie, tell us, what stage is this voluntary biodiversity credit market at nationally at the moment?
So we are right at the beginning, but it does feel like there's a real movement that's growing. And we have several companies now that have supported and have purchased voluntary biodiversity credits. So the first was a company called King, who are a gaming company that produce Candy Crush, who are part of Activision Blizzard, and they transacted £30,000. And we've got a great pipeline of companies that are keen to support local nature recovery, and they see the voluntary biodiversity credits as a great way to do this. We've also got, on the other side, lots of amazing UK projects who have corporate interest and demand, and they're looking for a kind of a way to take in support and investment and allocate it to nature recovery. So we hope that our mechanism is a way to achieve that.
And what are the motivations then of some of these businesses that are now interested in these voluntary credits? Why should they do it?
Well, I think there's a growing understanding of the biodiversity challenges that we have here in the UK, and there's growing desire from leadership within companies to play their part, whether it's part of their legacy or it's the right thing to do. But at the same time, we're seeing companies to attract and retain talent and team members. People want to work for companies that are doing the right thing. And then conversely, people are wanting to support and purchase from companies that are supporting nature restoration and protection as well. So there's a few different kind of reasons why businesses are looking to do this.
And I guess the great thing is these companies and their staff can come and see some of these sites for themselves.
Exactly. For the 700 businesses that we work with, 80% are here in the UK. And the majority of those companies are supporting projects outside of the UK. So there's just an obvious fit there where they want to include a proportion of their investment into local projects. At home, exactly.
Now, we've heard a bit about the register, the place where these credits are recorded. Tell us why that register matters so much for these voluntary ones.
Well, I think that as with any registry, it's important to track, to make sure we're not double selling credits, to make sure that there's transparency and traceability, and ultimately so we can align with the net gain register. And I think what's exciting is we found a way to kind of connect them. But there's also, from conversations we've had with DEFRA, Natural England, there's also an opportunity in the future that we can permanently connect, because I think it's so important that ultimately these things are traceable, and we can make sure there's no double counting, and we can make sure that we can see exactly where the money is going and what it's going towards.
The BSI's Nature Investment Standards programme is helping to set the conditions for high integrity nature finance here in the UK. Tell us a bit more how that underpins the work that you're doing through Earthly.
I think that the first thing to say is the BSI are perfectly placed, given their history and heritage, to create this framework, and we really support it. There's differing opinions around the world of what a biodiversity credit should look like, and anything that can bring consolidation and kind of alignment across these approaches we fully support, and we want to make sure that at Earthly, with our voluntary biodiversity credits, we align with that. The reason why we've built our system on top of the compliance market here in the UK is it's really about trust. And whilst there's disagreements around the best approach for biodiversity credits around the world, we felt we're in a very lucky position here in the UK. We have this compliance market, we can fractionalise these bigger BNG units, and we can just get going. We've also aligned the pricing with Natural England and DEFRA. So a voluntary biodiversity credit starts at about £150 for a 9 square metre area of land protected for that 30 years of biodiversity net gain. So we like to think that it's affordable, for local businesses and individuals to support the projects that they care about. Speaking to UK businesses, there is a desire to support UK projects, but we've just been lacking the mechanism to receive the funding and allocate it to nature protection and restoration.
The NEIRF funding has helped us actually take this concept, put it into a reality. We've secured high integrity delivery partners with Earthly. We've been able to add voluntary biodiversity credits to a Section 106 with Iford Estate. And it's only been a few months in. We've already had some great sales. We're just really looking forward to the next 6 months and what that brings. NEIRF funding was just crucial. I mean, we wouldn't be able to even remotely deliver this within several years perhaps without this funding.